Thank you, Geoff, for joining us today from Australia. Thank you so much for joining this podcast of Wake the F Up. Basically, as I explained a few minutes ago, we're mostly focusing on sharing insights with people. So people that are interested in the self-development industry, that want to enhance their self, whether it's their career, could be their fitness, their spirituality, all the kind of aspects of life that just put us in this path of continuous developments, right, toward the better version of ourselves. And so yeah, I'll just let you maybe introduce yourself briefly, and then we can move to something more to some deeper questions about life.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for having me here, Nizam. Appreciate it. So I'm Geoff, founder of Mind Access Life Coaching. I work as a personal coach for millennials. I'm also an entrepreneur, so I have my own gymwear brand called Australis Apparel. And on top of that as well, I have my own hydration brand called Eco Hydrate, and we make sustainable water bottle solutions. So that's just a little bit about me.
How do you see success from an entrepreneurial perspective? Someone that's just starting in business, trying to build their own venture, no matter what's the industry. What do you see as pillars to the success in this kind of? It's about taking risk, but what's the, for you, some success factors that you may share?
Yeah, the biggest thing that I've learned, because I've been doing many businesses for a long time now, I mean, this is my fifth or sixth, is that the biggest mistake that most people make is to not do the research. And I know that may be really tedious. You have an idea and you just want to act on it. But sometimes an idea may not be good. And I've had that before in the past where the idea is good to me, but the idea is only good if the marketplace wants to buy it. Right? People actually need to want your service or your product. So I would always recommend the first foundation, make sure that people want what you're selling. Number two, you want to make sure that the marketplace isn't too crowded. So if you're going to be, let's say drop shipping, you want to drop ship a product, you don't want to drop ship something that so many other people are drop shipping too, because then you're competing on price. You want to find something that you can position in a certain way that even if you are competing with other people, your marketing is just better. So those two are the major things I recommend if you're starting.
So basically, the second point is about competitive advantage, right? And the first one is mostly that you are not only fulfilling what you think is a need, but that you actually confirm that there is a need for this sort of product or service that you're wanting to sell, right? Probably every entrepreneur I know myself, and you probably know as well, it's always going to be these difficult moments when you're like, okay, so maybe I'm just going to give up. Although you did your market research, you thought there is a competitive advantage, but there's always this maybe a lack of traction, lack of, you have an expectation of success and what is success for your business, and then it's just not there yet. What's the psychology behind that? How can people just like, okay, I just continue or I just give up? So what's the elements, the factors that can lead them to succeed ultimately, the psychological elements that we are not necessarily tackling in business schools, for example, but we're focusing mostly on the process of building a startup, not on the psychological aspects, right? So what do you think is important for an entrepreneur to be as a person in order to succeed?
You've got to be disciplined. You've got to be willing to work hard. You've got to be willing to have a grit. Entrepreneurship is not something where, like, you've got to compare it to a 9-to-5 job. You go into your workplace, you work 8 hours a day, you're going to get paid X amount of money. That's a certainty. With entrepreneurship, there's no certainty. You could be working for hours and get paid nothing. Because entrepreneurship isn't in the same way of, okay, I'm going to trade my time for money, but trading your time for results. So you have to change the way you think about results. That a result isn't just earning money right now, but the result is creating something that will make you a lot more money in the future. So ultimately, it comes down to discipline, grit, and most importantly, patience. But not patience where you wait for it to change, patience where you continue working, and then you start to see improvements. But you've got to be patient and not rush that. You've got to know when to act and when to withhold.
Do we need to focus on the money aspects of it, of the business?
Absolutely.
Or on the value in terms of what people get out of it? What's your perspective on that? Because normally what I say to my students, like, don't necessarily focus on the money of it, like, although it's important, but focus on the value aspects to the customer that you're targeting. What's your take on this one?
I'll agree with you, but I would also say a combination, right? Because if people aren't paying for the value you provide them, then ultimately they're not valuing it very highly.
Yeah,
they're just seeing it as, we can get it for free. We don't really care about it. But if people are paying for it, then all of a sudden that's valuable, because like when you spend money on something, you're more likely to complete an online course, or you're more likely to put the work in if you invest in yourself, right? But if you got something for free, let's say you got a book for free versus a book you paid for, which one are you most likely to read?
Yeah, obviously the one you paid for, right? It makes sense. Yeah. So from people's perspective, if something is worth paying for, it means it has more value from their perspective, at least. You are a life coach in a sense, right? What does that mean in terms of what are your strategy in helping people, and not necessarily only on entrepreneurship, because it's just one side of our life, but what's the other aspects that you work on in your strategy as a life coach to just make people, as you say, build a meaningful life, right? Find purpose, for example, and so on.
Right. So the coaching that I do involves a 3-step process. And before I say what it is, I do want to say that for some reason, the majority of people that are attracted to the messaging I put out in terms of content, or what I have in terms of my ecosystem, are people that actually want to find a way to leave the 9 to 5. It just has so happened to be that way. But the entire process that I take my clients through is, firstly, we discover what it is they want to do with their life. So, for example, we could call it purpose. In the early days, I used to call it purpose. Now I call it more about, okay, what do you see as purposeful to you in this very moment that you would like to pursue? So more like a passion. And then we look at the obstacles, we look at the fears, the mindset, right? Why, if you want to do it, why haven't you done it? Why are you sitting here talking to me? And when we come clear on that, we realize, okay, you have all these things in your mind you've built up that stop you from making progress. And then once we clear all those out of the way, so this is quite a long program. It's around about 3 to 4 months, depending on what clients pick.
Okay. How about
it's
the frequency is like once a week, or?
Yeah, once a week.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so we go once a week. So usually people will pick the 4-month program, which is one per week. Some clients drag it out even further. They might go like once every 2 weeks or whatever it is, right? But so after we get clear on all those things, we then want to create a strategy. So we work together to build a strategy that allows them to look at their long-term goals. What do they want in terms of their vision for their life? And then we distill that down into daily action steps. So we're literally dividing everything down into what we need to do on a monthly, weekly, daily basis to actually make progress.
Basically, you have this big grandiose goal at the end of the year, or in 2 years or 3 years, or whatever the time period is, and then you need to break it down to many steps in order to just start seeing that it's actually real, like it can become a reality, right? It can be achieved through these kind of small steps that you go through it, right? So why isn't it so easy for people to just kind of sort of break down these big goals into small steps, in your opinion?
I think there's 2 things. One is that usually everyone is inside the bottle. What that means is, in their life, they're inside the bubble. They can't see it from the outside looking in. So a coach helps them see, okay, what are the deficits in their thinking? But secondly, the majority of people in the world today are wired for short-term gratification. So because our brain is so wired for instantaneous results, as we discussed entrepreneurship a little while ago, most things in the world that build success are not instantaneous. And if they are, it's probably going to be a house of cards. So when we work together in terms of like myself and my clients, one, we look at their mindset. Is it wired for short-term results? And how do we change that? How can we look at it so that rather than saying, I need to get this right now, and then you burn out, how can we make it sustainable and then make it daily? So that rather than being something, okay, I want to achieve this, it's something I'm doing every day to build upon. We're compounding.
Yeah, I see the process here. I just visualize this, but you're touching here on a very important aspect, which is the neurological aspects of the human being, which is we are what sort of our brain, or how can I say it in a nicer way, the way our brain is wired defines the quality of our life and our goals and the way we achieve things. Is it easy? I would say it's easy. Is it easy to just change people's minds, because ultimately that's what you are doing, and that's what many other professionals are doing, right? Just rewiring our brain, reprogramming us to be a better achievers, happier persons, and so on. What's the easiest way to do that in your opinion, for someone who just starting in the self-development world, or building their company, or whatever purpose they have?
The easiest way is depending on the disposition the client comes with. So like some clients come to me and they are just sponges. They just want to learn. They literally just say, okay, look, Geoff, like show me what needs to be done, or take us through this process. And they'll do all the work that I present to them. So for example, the coaching programs are not just like me talking, right? We're working, they get resources and stuff. So they'll do it every single week in and week out. They are clear on the fact that they want success. They want to change their life. But then there's been other clients who just can't be bothered. They don't do the stuff that is assigned between sessions. They are more interested in just talking about their problems and trying to find a solution. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think you can already probably tell from what I'm saying that one certain type of person is more likely to achieve a result than the other. It just depends on their disposition.
Also, what I call motivation, right? Is internal motivation, that I want to change, I want to achieve something because I just want to enhance myself, or is it because I want to impress my colleagues, or I want to impress my wife, or I want to impress this person, or just I want to chase some external reward? That's, for me, those are two kinds of motivations that may give different results at the end. I don't know if you think the same thing, but
no, I agree with you. The intention is what really matters.
Yeah. Okay, so Geoff, I'd like to maybe get a bit more personal, because also that's one way I do it with my guests, is just trying to get into the person's sort of shoes as well. So what's the you told me about the story about you being getting into this vicious circle of addiction at some point of your life. Can you maybe elaborate a bit more on how you got out of it to become actually a life coach and just really helping other people to build up their lives? What were the learnings along this path of yours that I suppose was not an easy one? Yeah, so I would like to have your insights on how to break bad habits into and build good ones, as individuals, as organizations as well, if we think about companies. So yeah.
To remove a bad habit, so for example, for more context, in the past 2.5 years ago, I was heavily addicted to different types of drugs, mainly marijuana, DMA, alcohol. I was a cigarette smoker, addicted to junk food. If you look at me now versus how I was back then, it's not even the same person. Seriously, like it wouldn't, you're shocked. But anyways, what happened in terms of how I changed it was I had to have a really strong reason, which, that's not to say that for the 8 years I was addicted, that I didn't have a strong reason, but it wasn't powerful enough. The major realization was when I was about to be promoted at work. So I was going to be promoted twice.
Okay.
And I realized that I was no longer a kid anymore. Like I was this 25-year-old guy that was like a project manager, about to become one, going to be in charge of all these global projects with different pharmaceutical companies around the world. And this is back when I was employed. And I realized, wow, I'm doing all of this. People are dependent on me. People's lives are dependent on me. And here I'm about to go home and drink and smoke some weed. What the hell is wrong with me? So that was a catalyst, right? Now, I got clean off drugs in 2020. So it's been over 3 years now, right? And in this process of time, I've had to replace that with something else. So when you lose something that you love or you loved, right, it feels like you have nothing anymore. It's like losing your best friend or breaking up with your girlfriend. Exactly. It's a void. So how I realized the only way to fix that void is to find something new that you love. And so for me, it was training. And training is still my love to this day. I was training consistently, but training is what got me on that path in the first place. Is that rather than me going to smoke weed outside or me doing this or that, I'd just be work, gym. My life was the same every single day. And then COVID hit. I think actually COVID had hit during that time, but COVID allowed me the perspective to really, instead of always being in the go and always being stuck in the same model of thinking, it made me actually reflect on my life and try to find something new. And this is where I stumbled across personal development. Like nowadays, how you go on TikTok or Instagram and it's full of, motivational videos of like David Goggins or, Jocko Willink. It wasn't like this back then. We had nothing. So I had to go out and find it by myself. And I did. I found life coaching. and I certified myself in life coaching. It wasn't even intended for me to pursue as a career. I just did it because I thought it would help me get out of my bad rut. I did that. I started my own motivational page. It grew to over 3,000 followers in a few months because back in the day, it was so easy to grow on social media. And just things like that over time, I decided to quit my job, and I quit it in the middle of 2021, flew to Melbourne in the middle of COVID, started fresh as a coach. And since then, I've just continued forward and I've never looked back. So to answer your final question there was, how do you change your habits? You need to find an intention. You need to find something to replace it with. And thirdly, you have to actually realize that you're worth more than it. You've got to recognize your self-worth.
Yeah, that's a nice way of summarizing it. Because it just got me this image of a dog who was complaining, actually. So I think it's a quote. I read it somewhere. I don't know exactly where. But anyway, there's this dog complaining, like, and barking like this. And so the guy came and asked the other one, like, why is he, he doesn't look happy. Why is he like barking? And the owner was like, well, he's sitting on a nail, right? I don't know if you know this one. He's sitting on a nail. And so the friend asked, like, okay, well, why doesn't he just change place? And he was like, well, it's just not hurting enough. That's it. That's why he just like same place. So for me, like, most people are just in this sort of this being conscious, aware, or that you are not in a good place. It may take some time because it just not hurts enough. It doesn't hurt enough for you to just change, right? And that's the catalyst of change. We're talking about catalysts. There must be some catalyst, whether it's external or internal, that makes you just move toward the next evolution stage of yourself, right? So yeah, just reminded me of this story. Your career and yourself. I don't know if you want to add something to the discussion, maybe some tips that you can share with us in terms of, let's say, well, if you are into fitness. So, for example, the fitness aspect. How do you define fitness? Because everybody will tell you, like, okay, I am into bodybuilding, I am into running, I am into this and that. How do you define being fit as a person, not only in the short term, but to impress the ladies, but on the really long term? So what's your take on that?
For me, the way I define fitness is we should have a couple of prerequisites to say that we are fit. We should be able to run 5 kilometers without stopping. We should be able to train without stopping, at least 5 kilometers, at least, at a bare minimum. Number 2, we should be able to hit the gym at least 5 days a week, minimum. Number 3, we should be doing some form of combat sports at least 2 to 3 times a week. And number 4, we should be watching our diets and make sure that we're eating good. Okay, that's actually a lot, to be honest, but like that's what I think is a good competence of fitness.
Yeah,
is that we're always
it's
conscious.
your perspective on it, right?
That's true. That's true. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, that was what I would say. So in accordance to training, also what you eat. Make sure that you're eating healthy foods, you're looking after yourself, your body, and no junk food, no pollution, no smoking, no drinking. To me, that's what I believe fitness is. No pollution coming in, only good food, good energy, and then use that energy to improve your life. And that's how I define fitness.
And I suppose there is also the sleep side, right, of the equation, right?
That's true.
Yeah. Because I know that, like, some CEOs like always brag about this 4 hours sleep per day, and I'm like, yeah, but you're not getting enough sleep. Then how can your body operate over the long term? Maybe for now you're okay because you're so passionate about whatever you're doing, but maybe on the long term you're gonna have some actually serious problems. So for me, it's important.